The shuttle doors hissed open, and a soft glow filled the small docking bay. Commander Elias Ward stepped forward, his boots echoing against the metallic floor. He had seen many dignitaries arrive on Earth, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Stepping out of the shuttle was Princess Liara, the Zephyrian heir. She was taller than most humans, her frame elegant and slender. Her skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the pale lights above, and her eyes were large, bright, and golden. Every movement she made was careful, precise, almost like a dance. The moment she walked into the bay, all chatter died. Technicians and officers alike turned to look at her, silently admiring the alien beauty. Elias adjusted his uniform. He had been briefed on the protocols, but none of that mattered now. He simply had to guide her safely to the command center. He took a step forward. "Welcome to Earth, Princess Liara," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Liara inclined her head gracefully. "Thank you, Commander Ward. I am pleased to meet your people." Her voice was soft, yet carried a musical tone that made Elias pause for a moment. She spoke flawlessly in Basic, the universal language. Elias led her down the corridor, speaking briefly of the city, the colony, and the human culture. Liara listened attentively, nodding occasionally, but her eyes wandered over the walls, the machines, and the small gardens scattered throughout the corridors. There was something in her gaze, curiosity, yes, but also a flicker of caution, as if she were measuring everything carefully. When they reached the command center, Elias gestured toward a large observation window overlooking the colony. "This is where we monitor all activity. The city below is your temporary residence while you are here." Liara's eyes softened. She moved closer to the window, her reflection merging with the city lights. "It is different from Sci-Fi. There is life here in abundance. Energy flows in every corner. I like it." She paused, her fingers lightly touching the glass. "Your people are strong, Commander." "I can feel it," Elias swallowed. "Thank you, Princess. Strength comes from many things. Hard work, resilience, and sometimes courage when facing the unknown." Liara turned her gaze toward him, her golden eyes steady. "Courage, yes. That is something all leaders must have. I hope to learn it among your people as well." The first evening in the colony passed with a formal dinner. Elias had expected the usual politeness, but Liara surprised him. She moved with elegance, but when she laughed, it was genuine and warm. She asked questions about Earth food, about humans, and even joked lightly about the difficulty of using chopsticks. Yet Elias noticed something peculiar. As she reached for a glass of water, her hand shook slightly and the glass tilted, spilling a few drops on the tablecloth. She recovered instantly, smiling apologetically at the attendants. "I am not used to these instruments," she said softly. It was a small moment, barely noticeable, but something about it caught Elias's attention. There was a subtle tension in her movements, a hint of discomfort she tried hard to hide. After the dinner, Elias walked her to her quarters. The corridors were quiet now. The city outside bathed in the soft light of the twin moons. Liara moved carefully, placing her weight gently on one leg more than the other. Elias noticed it but said nothing, unsure if it was cultural or personal habit. "Commander," she said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence, "I must admit, the journey here was long and the city is more crowded than I expected. Your people, they are full of life." "They are," Elias replied. "And you have adjusted well, Princess, for someone who has just arrived from Zephyr." Liara's lips curved into a small smile. "I must do my best. On Zephyr, appearances matter. My own position is delicate. I must appear strong and capable at all times. Weakness is a danger, both to myself and to those who follow me." Elias's brow furrowed slightly. "Danger? You mean political danger?" She nodded, her expression solemn. "Yes, my people admire strength. Any hint of weakness, any misstep, can be used against me. That is why I must appear flawless." Elias felt a pang of understanding. He had dealt with human politics, with leaders who hid their fears and weaknesses behind confident faces. Yet something about her words made him curious. Beneath the elegance, beneath the carefully controlled movements, there was something real, something human in her struggles. The next morning, Liara walked through the city accompanied by Elias. She observed humans at work, watched children play in the parks, and asked many questions. She spoke of Zephyr, describing the floating cities, the shimmering forests, and the artificial rivers that glowed at night. Yet every now and then Elias noticed her pause, resting lightly on one leg, avoiding stairs or leaning slightly on a railing. During lunch at a small communal hall, a minor incident occurred. A child ran too close to her table, knocking over a cup. Liara reacted instantly, catching the cup, but there was a slight wince in her movement. Elias caught it in the corner of his eye. She smiled at the child, hiding the discomfort, but it was there. A limp, a hesitation, a subtle shadow beneath the perfection. Elias's curiosity grew. He did not know the cause, but he sensed that there was more to the princess than anyone could see. The next few days brought more encounters like this. She was always careful, always graceful, yet always just slightly off in ways that humans would dismiss as quirks or habits. That evening, Elias and Liara returned to the command center. They observed the city lights reflecting on the water channels, and Elias felt a rare sense of calm. He spoke quietly. "You must miss your home, princess. It cannot be easy to travel so far from Zifar." Liara's gaze softened. "I do, and yet, Earth has its own beauty. Your people, they are resilient. They fight for survival, for life, for each other. That is admirable, stronger than many think." Elias looked at her, noticing again the careful way she shifted her weight. "It seems strength can take many forms, princess. It is not always what the eyes see. Sometimes it is hidden, even in someone who appears flawless." Liara's lips curved in a faint smile. "Perhaps, Commander, you understand more than most." As the night deepened, Elias felt the weight of his responsibility. Hosting a princess was more than protocol. It was a delicate balance of diplomacy, trust, and understanding. And as he watched her leave for her quarters, moving with that quiet, careful grace, he realized something profound. Liara was not just a princess of a distant world. She was a being shaped by challenge, courage, and unseen struggle. And Elias knew, even if he did not yet fully understand it, that seeing her as she truly was, beyond the perfection, beyond the elegance, would change everything. The morning sun streamed through the wide windows of the colony's observation tower, casting long shadows across the polished floor. Commander Elias Ward sipped his coffee, scanning the city below. Today would be a routine inspection, he thought, an opportunity for Princess Liara to observe human life up close. But even routine had its surprises when it involved her. Liara arrived promptly, her appearance flawless as always. Her long robes shimmered softly under the sunlight, and her hair, carefully braided in a traditional Zifarian style, fell over her shoulders. Yet as she descended the stairs, Elias noticed something subtle. Her steps were careful, almost hesitant. She favored one leg slightly, pressing more weight onto the other. "Commander," she said, her voice polite but carrying a faint undertone of weariness. "The city is alive with motion. Humans seem to take great care in organizing such chaos." Elias smiled. "That's a polite way of saying we're messy, princess. But yes, we try. Life here isn't easy, but humans find a way to keep going." Liara tilted her head, observing the small streets below. Children ran between fountains. Vendors shouted cheerfully, and workers moved in a rhythm that seemed chaotic but was somehow effective. "Your people, they have energy, strength. Yet it is not the same as power. It is something deeper, more enduring." Elias nodded. "Yes, humans can survive much more than anyone expects. Sometimes it surprises even us." As they walked through the streets, Liara asked many questions about human life. How they farmed, how they learned, how they built machines that defied gravity. Each time Elias answered patiently, explaining in simple words without patronizing her. He found that Liara listened intently, her eyes bright with curiosity. But beneath her questions he began to notice something new. She often paused, resting lightly on one leg, sometimes leaning subtly on railings, or moving around obstacles with careful steps. At first, he thought it was habit or cultural difference, but as the morning progressed, he realized it was more than that. Liara's movements were deliberate, controlled yet cautious, as if she were hiding a discomfort. Their path led them to a marketplace filled with vibrant colors and smells. Humans bartered, children played, and robotic assistants moved smoothly among the crowd. Liara walked slowly, taking everything in, yet Elias noticed a subtle tension in her expression. "Princess," he asked cautiously, "is everything all right? You seem careful." Liara smiled, but it was faint, almost fleeting. I am well, Commander. Humans are strong. Their movements are direct, abrupt even. I must adjust to avoid missteps. Elias's curiosity sharpened. Missteps? She looked away, gazing at a fountain where children tossed coins. On Scifi, every movement is judged. Every action is observed. A misstep can be used against you. I am trained to appear flawless. Always. Elias felt a small pang of understanding. He had seen humans hide fear behind smiles, but Liara's restraint was different. It was deliberate, almost mechanical, but the hint of strain beneath her perfection told him there was a cost. Their morning ended at a small engineering workshop. Here humans worked side by side with advanced machinery, repairing drones and robots. Liara's eyes lit up as she watched a young engineer fix a hovering transport device. She leaned forward, her fingers brushing against the glass case, eyes wide with fascination. Your people are inventive, she said softly. They take simple tools and make wonders. It is admirable, Elias smiled. That's humanity. We adapt, we learn. We survive. Liara nodded, but then her expression changed just for a moment. She shifted her weight, her face tightening slightly, and her hand brushed her side as if to steady herself. Elias saw it, and it struck him like a sudden thought. The princess was not as perfect as she appeared. There was vulnerability in her movements, a hidden struggle she carried silently. As they left the workshop, a minor accident occurred. A crate toppled from a shelf, rolling across the floor. Liara moved quickly to step aside, but she stumbled, her movement awkward and slightly off balance. Elias reacted immediately, stepping to support her. Princess, are you hurt? He asked. Liara recovered her poise instantly, smiling faintly. I am uninjured, thank you, Commander. But as she walked away, her steps were careful, controlled, almost as if she were hiding a secret. That evening, back in the observation tower, Elias reviewed the day's events. Liara had observed, questioned, and even participated in human activities, but always with a level of restraint he could not ignore. Something about her behavior puzzled him. She was intelligent, courageous in many ways, yet there was a subtle fragility, carefully hidden beneath elegance and grace. The next day brought further challenges. Liara joined a training exercise with human security officers. The exercise simulated a breach of the colony's perimeter by unknown forces. Humans moved quickly, coordinating attacks and defenses. Liara observed, instructing subtle adjustments, pointing out weaknesses in the plan, her mind sharp and analytical. Yet when the exercise required physical movement, she faltered. A brief sprint across uneven terrain caused her to slow, favoring one leg. A jump over a small obstacle forced her to pause and recover. Elias noticed immediately. While her mind was brilliant, her body seemed limited. After the exercise, Elias approached her quietly. Princess, you do not need to hide from me. I notice your difficulty. There is no shame in it. Liara's golden eyes met his, and for the first time there was a flash of relief in her gaze. You see it then, she whispered. I was trained to hide it, to appear flawless. On Scifi, weakness is dangerous. A single misstep can cost lives. It is not something I am proud of. Elias nodded gently. Everyone has limits, Princess. Strength is not only in perfection, it is in courage and facing challenges despite them. You show more strength by being here, learning and participating, than by hiding. Liara considered his words. For the first time, she allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Perhaps you understand more than most. I must always appear strong, always, but your people, humans, see strength differently. You see beyond appearances. Elias felt a newfound respect for her. She had traveled across the galaxy, faced political dangers, and maintained the image of perfection. Yet beneath it she was human, vulnerable, cautious, and courageous in ways that were invisible to most. Later that night, as the city slept, Liara moved quietly through the corridors of the observation tower. She paused at a window overlooking the colony. Lights shimmered across the streets, reflecting off water channels and rooftops. For a moment she allowed herself to rest, leaning on the railing with a slight wince. Elias, passing by, noticed her. Princess? She turned slightly, her expression soft but careful. I am well, Commander, just observing. You don't have to hide from me, he said gently. I see you. The truth behind the elegance. It does not make you less, it makes you stronger. Liara's lips curved in a faint smile. Strength. is not always what the eyes see. On Scifi, that is difficult to teach. Perhaps here I can learn something new. Elias nodded, a sense of understanding passing between them. The princess of an alien world, poised and brilliant, was learning to reveal herself, not fully. Not yet, but enough for someone to see beyond the mask. As they left the observation deck, Elias realized something important. The princess was more than a diplomatic figurehead. She was a person of courage, of resilience, and of wisdom. And humanity, he thought, had a rare opportunity to see the real strength of another world, not just in technology or beauty, but in the quiet, hidden determination of one of its most revered leaders. And Elias knew, as he watched her move carefully through the corridors, that the next days would reveal even more truths. Strength and courage were not always visible at first glance, and sometimes seeing the truth behind perfection was the greatest challenge of all. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the human colony. The streets buzzed with activity as children ran to finish their games. Merchants called out the day's final sales, and hovering transports glided smoothly between buildings. Commander Elias Ward walked alongside Princess Liara, guiding her through a quieter street lined with small cafes and gardens. Liara moved carefully, her steps measured and precise. Elias could not ignore the subtle favoring of her left leg. It had been there from the first day he met her, but now he began to understand it was more than a habit. It was a limitation she had concealed from everyone. "Commander," she said softly, pausing near a fountain. "Your people, they have a remarkable way of surviving. They adapt. They keep moving forward no matter the obstacles." Elias nodded, studying her expression. There was admiration in her golden eyes, but also something else, a quiet strength hidden beneath vulnerability. He wanted to say more, to tell her he had noticed her careful steps, her subtle hesitation, but the words caught in his throat. They entered a small, open kitchen attached to a local cafe. The smell of fresh bread and roasted herbs filled the air. Liara paused at the doorway, observing the human cooks as they moved quickly, chopping, stirring, and tasting their dishes. "Would you like to try?" Elias asked. "You can cook with them if you wish. It may be enlightening." Liara's eyes flickered with surprise. "Cook?" she asked. She had been trained to command, to negotiate, to appear flawless in public, but cooking, something so ordinary, so human, was not a skill she needed to display in the palace. Yet there was a small spark of curiosity in her gaze. "Yes," Elias said gently. "It's part of life here. Humans learn, experiment, make mistakes. It is how we grow." Liara nodded, stepping forward. Her hands, delicate and precise, hovered over the cutting board. As she tried to lift a loaf of bread, she winced slightly and shifted her weight onto her other leg. Elias's heart tightened. The truth was now undeniable. The Zephyrian princess, so admired for her grace and intelligence, had a physical weakness she had hidden from everyone. "You, favor your left leg," Elias said quietly, keeping his voice calm. "It's nothing to hide, princess. I see it, and it does not make you less." Liara froze for a moment, her golden eyes widening. Then slowly she set the bread down and looked at him directly. "You see it," she whispered. "No one else has seen it. I have been careful. So careful. To appear perfect, to appear strong. On Scifi, weakness is dangerous. A misstep can cost everything." Elias stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Strength is not only in perfection. Strength is in courage. And facing challenges, even with limitations, shows more courage than hiding them ever could." Liara looked away, taking a deep breath. She touched the railing of the kitchen, leaning slightly to steady herself. "On Scifi, my family, my court, they would use this against me. They would see me as unfit to lead. That is why I must always appear flawless. But here, among humans, perhaps I can be seen as I am." For the first time, Elias noticed a flicker of vulnerability in her posture. She was not invincible, not untouchable. She was human in ways he had not expected. And yet, there was courage in the way she stood, even with her weakness, even with the careful favoring of one leg. Liara took a deep breath, her voice steadier now. "I have carried this secret for all my life. Every movement, every step, calculated. Every display of perfection, carefully measured. It is exhausting and it is lonely. No one can know. Not even my closest advisors." Elias nodded slowly. "Then perhaps it is time someone does. You are not alone here, and your strength is remarkable. Not because you are flawless, but because you continue despite it. Liara's gaze softened and she allowed herself a small, almost shy smile. You understand more than I expected. I have traveled far to learn from humans. Perhaps I will learn more than I imagined. As they moved through the kitchen, Elias observed her carefully. She handled utensils and ingredients with care, shifting her weight, leaning lightly when needed. Each movement was deliberate, each step measured. Yet she did not hesitate to participate, to engage, to be present. There was courage in her actions, bravery in her willingness to reveal even a hint of weakness. The cafe staff watched with quiet admiration. Humans were used to leaders, diplomats, and dignitaries, but they rarely saw someone like Liara. She was regal, intelligent, and poised, but now they could see she was also human, vulnerable yet determined. The combination was compelling, inspiring even. Later they returned to the streets. Children waved, merchants called greetings, and humans moved with energy and purpose. Elias walked beside Liara, noting the careful steps she took. "Commander," she said after a long silence, "do you think my people would ever understand this? That strength is not always about perfection? That courage can exist even with limitation?" Elias thought for a moment. "I believe they would, Princess. But it may take someone willing to show them. To lead by example, not just by appearances. And perhaps that someone is you." Liara's golden eyes held a glimmer of hope. "Perhaps you are right. On Earth I am learning. Courage takes many forms, and perhaps I can be seen as I truly am, without fear of judgment." They paused near a quiet fountain, watching the water ripple in the late afternoon light. Liara shifted her weight again, wincing slightly, and Elias realized that her vulnerability was not a weakness to be hidden. It was a part of her, a quiet source of strength that had never been acknowledged openly. "You have endured so much, Princess," he said softly. "You have traveled across the galaxy, faced political pressures, and maintained the image of perfection. Yet here you allow yourself to be seen. That is courage. That is strength." Liara looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "I have always believed that strength must be perfect. That weakness is a danger. But perhaps strength can also be quiet, enduring, persistent, and perhaps it can be shared rather than hidden." Elias smiled. "Yes. And the more it is shared, the stronger it becomes, not just for you, but for everyone around you." As the evening approached, they returned to the observation tower. The city below glowed with lights, reflections dancing across the water channels. Liara moved slowly, carefully, yet with purpose. Each step was deliberate, measured, but it was also brave. "Commander," she said quietly, "I think I'm beginning to understand something new. Strength is not only what is visible, it is the courage to face what cannot be hidden, to continue despite it, and perhaps to trust others enough to be seen." Elias nodded. "You have already begun that journey, Princess. And I think your people, both human and Zephyrian, will see it too, when the time comes." For the first time, Liara allowed herself to relax, leaning lightly against the railing of the observation deck. Her golden eyes reflected the city lights, and Elias felt a quiet admiration. She was more than a princess, more than an alien diplomat. She was a being of courage, determination, and wisdom. And now, for the first time, she was beginning to reveal it. The days that followed were filled with careful observation, small exercises, and quiet moments of shared conversation. Liara continued to engage with humans, participating in activities, asking questions, and learning about Earth. Each interaction revealed a little more of her personality, her intelligence, and her hidden vulnerabilities. Elias watched with growing respect. The princess, so often admired for elegance and perfection, was revealing a deeper truth, that courage and strength were not always visible, and that the willingness to show even a hint of vulnerability was a mark of true leadership. And Elias knew that the events yet to come, challenges, dangers, and unexpected trials would test this new understanding. For Liara's strength, while hidden until now, would soon be revealed in ways neither humans nor Zephyrians could anticipate. The hidden truth behind the princess was no longer a secret. Elias had seen it. And in seeing it, he understood something vital. The greatest power was not perfection, but resilience, courage, and the willingness to face the world as one truly is. The colony awoke to an unusual silence. The hum of hovering vehicles, the chatter of street vendors, and the laughter of children seemed muted, as if the city itself sensed danger. Commander Elias Ward stood atop the observation tower, scanning the horizon. The readings were strange. Anomalous energy surges near the outer perimeter, unlike anything the colony had experienced before. "Princess Liara," Elias called, turning toward her. She was beside him, her golden eyes sharp and alert. Her usual careful steps were quickened by concern, though she still favored her left leg slightly, shifting weight carefully as she moved. "What is happening?" she asked. "A potential breach," Elias replied. "Sensors detect energy signatures resembling Zephyrian technology, but not from your ship. It appears hostile." Liara's expression hardened. "Rogue Zephyrians. There are those in my people who oppose the alliance with humans. They will see this as an opportunity." Elias nodded. "Then we must prepare. The colony relies on both human and Zephyrian cooperation. If we fail..." His words trailed, but Liara understood. She straightened her posture, hiding the slight limp. "Then we will not fail. Strategy is key, and humans have a different approach to combat than Zephyrians. Perhaps this difference can become our advantage." The security teams mobilized, and Elias watched as humans moved with precision and ingenuity, setting up barricades, activating defensive systems, and coordinating with the colony's AI. Liara observed, her mind calculating, her eyes sharp. She gave instructions, adjusted strategies, and pointed out weaknesses in the defense plan. Every move was deliberate, her intelligence evident. Yet when physical presence was required, she moved cautiously, carefully avoiding strain, a subtle limp evident to Elias. The rogue Zephyrians struck at dusk, their ships cutting through the sky, energy beams streaking toward the colony. Panic rippled briefly, but human defenses held firm. Liara's strategy guided the placement of shields and automated turrets. Even with her physical limitations, her tactical brilliance inspired the human soldiers and loyal Zephyrian allies. "Hold the left flank," she commanded, pointing toward a vulnerable sector. "Use the energy dampeners there. Funnel them into the open channel." Elias watched as humans and Zephyrians adjusted, following her orders. Her physical restraint did not slow the flow of leadership. It was her mind, her strategy, and her courage that made the difference. As the battle continued, Elias noticed how the rogue forces underestimated Liara. They assumed weakness from her careful steps, her measured movements. But they were wrong. She moved among the defenders, providing guidance, motivating them, and revealing tactical openings. Every instruction she gave, every suggestion she made was precise and effective. At one point, a small breach occurred in a secondary perimeter. Liara directed a squad to contain it. She could not physically join the skirmish without risking injury, but she stayed at the command center, coordinating drones and defense turrets. Her calm presence steadied the human soldiers, giving them confidence. Elias felt a surge of respect. Here was a being trained for perfection, yet she embraced vulnerability, transforming it into strength. The rogue Zephyrians, confident in their superiority, were systematically outmaneuvered. Hours passed. Energy shields glowed, beams of light cut across the sky, and explosions echoed in the distance. Yet through it all, Liara's voice remained steady, her directions clear, her presence inspiring. She had turned what some might have seen as weakness into the colony's greatest advantage: strategy, intelligence, and courage under pressure. Finally, as the last of the rogue ships retreated, the colony remained standing. Humans and loyal Zephyrians cheered, their relief palpable. Liara allowed herself a small, genuine smile, leaning lightly against a console to steady herself. Her left leg ached, but the pride in her eyes was unmistakable. Elias approached her. "Princess, you led this colony without leaving a mark on the ground, except in the hearts of those who saw your courage. That is true strength." Liara's golden eyes met his. "I could not have done it alone. Humans, you are remarkable. You adapt, you learn, you fight even when odds are against you. And yet, you also see strength differently than my people. You see it where it is hidden in courage and determination." Elias nodded. "Yes, that is what makes this alliance powerful. Together we combine human ingenuity and Zephyrian strategy. Together, we are stronger than either alone." As night fell, the colony celebrated cautiously, tending to minor repairs and caring for the injured. Liara moved among the human defenders, her presence gentle but commanding. Each interaction revealed her wisdom, her thoughtfulness and her respect for human resilience. Elias watched her, realizing that the princess was no longer just a figure of diplomacy. She was a symbol of unity, courage, and hope. That night, as they returned to the observation tower, Liara spoke softly. "I have always believed strength must be perfection. That weakness is danger. But today, I have learned something different. Strength can exist despite limits. Courage can exist despite pain. And leadership can inspire even from vulnerability." Elias placed a hand gently on the railing beside her. "You have taught that lesson to more people than you realize, Princess. Not through power or perfection, but through resilience and courage." Liara looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps this is the true meaning of leadership. To guide even when one is not flawless. To inspire even when one has limits. And perhaps to trust others enough to be seen." Elias smiled. "You have already begun that journey, Princess. And the days ahead will test it further, I'm sure." Liara's gaze turned toward the city, calm now after the battle. "I am ready, Commander. Ready to face what comes next, together." The rogue attack had ended, but both humans and Zephyrians knew this was only the beginning. The bond forged in battle, the trust built through understanding, and the courage revealed despite limitations would shape the future of the Alliance. And Elias realized that the princess, with her hidden strength and revealed vulnerability, had become a beacon of hope for both worlds. The morning after the battle, the colony was quiet but alive with activity. Repairs were underway, supplies distributed, and humans and Zephyrians worked side by side to restore order. Commander Elias Ward walked with Princess Liara through the bustling streets, noting the mix of admiration and respect in the eyes of the people around them. "Commander," Liara said softly, her golden eyes observing the children playing near a fountain. "Your people, they are resilient. Even after danger, they continue. They repair, rebuild, and move forward." "It is inspiring," Elias nodded. "Yes, humans endure. That is how we survive. And today you have shown them what courage looks like, even with limits." Liara paused, shifting her weight slightly onto her stronger leg, her limp still evident, but no longer hidden. "I have always believed that strength is perfection. But now, I see it differently. Strength is courage. Strength is endurance. Strength is being seen even when imperfect." As they approached the colony's main square, a crowd had gathered. Humans and Zephyrians alike had come to express gratitude, curiosity, and admiration. Children waved, pointing at the princess, and adults whispered respectfully among themselves. Liara's presence commanded attention, not through fear or awe, but through respect earned in battle and shared experience. Elias guided her to a small platform where speeches were being held. She stepped forward carefully, acknowledging the crowd with a gentle nod. Her golden eyes scanned the faces of humans and Zephyrians alike, seeing not only admiration but also trust. "You have all faced danger together," she began, her voice calm but carrying authority. "You have shown courage. You have shown ingenuity. And you have shown that unity between our peoples can overcome challenges even the strongest might think impossible." She paused, taking a careful step, leaning slightly on a nearby support. The crowd noticed the subtle limp, but it did not diminish their admiration. If anything, it made her courage more tangible. She was not flawless, yet she led with wisdom and bravery. "On Sci-Fi, strength is often measured by perfection, by appearance," she continued. "But here I have learned something important. True strength comes from perseverance, from courage, from standing together, even when there are limits. Today we have shown that together humans and Zephyrians can achieve greatness." The crowd erupted in applause. Humans and Zephyrians alike recognized the truth in her words. Liara stepped down from the platform, smiling gently, her eyes meeting Elias's. "You have taught me much, Commander," she said softly. "About courage, about leadership, about seeing strength where it is hidden. Perhaps this is the true alliance. One not built solely on technology or politics, but on trust, respect, and understanding." Elias smiled. "And you have taught us, Princess, that courage is not perfection. Strength is not flawless. It is resilience, determination, and the willingness to face the world as one truly is." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the colony, Liara moved through the streets, her presence now familiar and comforting. She helped organize supplies, encouraged children to keep playing despite the minor damages, and spoke with engineers repairing the city's structures. Her limp was visible, but it no longer defined her. It was part of her story, part of the courage she had shown. Elias watched, realizing that the princess had become more than a diplomat. She was a leader who had